So a few people, and literally it only is a few people, have asked me to share what I bring with me while I'm wild camping. I think most of those people have asked because they're maybe thinking about trying wild camping themselves. Now, I don't bring very much with me whenever I'm camping. I just try to bring exactly what I need. I can fit it all into this Osprey Talon 44 rucksack. So that's a 44 litre rucksack, and usually I've plenty of room left in there if I needed to bring anything else, but I don't. Most of my trips are one night, so they're 2 full days and 1 night. I may do a 2-nighter at some stage. I suppose the only additional thing I would need to bring then is some more food. So it wouldn't add an awful lot to what I would need to bring in the pack or to the weight. And usually I would bring a 1 litre bottle of water full, and then another bottle of water empty, and I just sort of fill that from natural sources up here in the mountains, which usually works okay for me. So what I'll do, I'll go through my pack, and I'll go through what I use whenever I'm wild camping, and hopefully that's of some use or benefit. So in terms of what I bring for sleeping, the first thing is this ground sheet. So nothing special at all. It's an old thing that I just laying around, but it is nice and light, and it is tough, so it protects the rest of my sleeping stuff from say if it's a wet ground, or if it's an uneven ground, or if there's maybe something sharp in the ground. So that's an essential to bring, and that's the first sort of layer in terms of my sleep system. So the second part of my sleep system, or the one I would use the most, is a bivy bag. This is the Alpkit Hunka XL, and this is about 60 quid. So I also have the Alpkit Hunka. It's grand for good dry weather. The only thing is you can't put a full-size sleep mat inside it. It has to stay outside, which maybe isn't that great if it's maybe damp. And even like this morning, when I woke up from a wild camp, there was a really heavy dew and everything was soaking. So even if it's not raining, you could still get sort of water on it, and then that can maybe cause issues with like mold and what have you in the sleep mat. So this is a really cool bivy bag, and I just love bivy bags. If you can sort of be out more connected with nature, why wouldn't you be? And usually I'm staring straight up at a sort of sky full of stars, and never a bother, even light showers, or if it's cold, you can put the sleeping bag and bivy as close around your face as you want. So that's the sort of second layer. Now sometimes I would use a tent. That would be if there is showers or rain forecast during the night. I don't think I would want to be out in a bivy if there was, it was going to be particularly wet, but I think it could cope with some light showers. The third part of my sleeping system is my sleep mat, and this is the X-Bed Mat 7am. So this is a fair wee size, not enormous, but I just think this is so important. So it is a real good thickness and a good temperature rating, and it really does the job if it's cold. I remember a bivy Sleeve Cora in the morns, about 600 metres, and it was the most uncomfortable night ever. And it was an old ex-army bivy bag and a wee thin sleep mat. When I woke up in the morning, everything was covered with a really heavy frost, and that must have been one of the most uncomfortable nights while camping I've ever had. So this good thick sleeping mat really is absolutely crucial in terms of my sleep system, and I wouldn't be without it. Now in the height of summer, I've got a wee thin 3/4 blow up mat, and I would use that because it is quite a bit smaller, and that would fit inside the Hunka Bivy as well. But sort of winter, spring, autumn, whenever it gets down to maybe single figures at night, when you're lying out, you really do feel the cold. So this is a really, really good sleeping mat, and there's loads of other ones out there. So it's just a matter of checking the temperature rating, and the higher the temperature rating, the more insulation it'll actually give you from the ground. I suppose if you fit that with your ground sheet, your bivy bag, and then you've a sleep mat, and I'll go on and talk about the sleeping bag next. That's a really good system for keeping warm and cozy at night, and it is really, really comfy. It's like one of them lilos. Remember the lilos you used to get at the beach? They go out in the water. It looks a wee bit like that, but this, you just sink into this, and it is just so comfortable. There's no bumps or anything digging into your back, and I've had some sleepless nights. You'd something sort of digging into your back, your shoulder, what have you. This sort of irons all that out, and this has a sort of internal pump, so that means you don't have to blow to get it inflated. I suppose that puts moisture inside, and you can get it. I've seen other sort of wild campers on YouTube have like wee mini fans or wee mini pumps that sort of pump up for you, and that's something else to use. But even just using your hand, there's a bit of faffing about, but it only takes a couple of minutes, and you've got this up. And then for deflating it, you just have a separate bung and you pull it out, and it's easy to sort of deflate and roll up again. So the next part of my sleep system, and again this is probably one, if not the most important, is sleeping bag. And this is a Mountain Equipment 0350, and I've had this, goodness, I must have had this about 15 years, and I think, if I can remember, I think I bought it in Cotswold. It was maybe about £180–200 all that time ago, and it stood me in really, really good stead. It's only sleeping bag that I use, and it's sort of recommended sleep zone is +20 to -5. Now in freezing weather, because I have cold toes and cold fingers, just must be in circulation isn't great, I do need to wear an extra pair of socks. And that really, really helps to keep my feet warm, even in the sleeping bag. And I know other people have told me recently about you can get wee down booties, which pack down really small and light, and you can use as well. So I suppose they do something similar. But this is a fantastic bag. Look, that's the size of it, and it weighs literally nothing. And I could probably squeeze that down even more if I had a different stuff sack. So that's my sleep system, and it's all pretty lightweight stuff. And I suppose if you are going lightweight, it potentially can cost you a wee bit more. I certainly wouldn't want to be lugging around a big heavy synthetic bag. Even the size of those, I do have one, and I haven't used it in years. I'm sure it's really warm, but it's the pack size is about 2-3 times bigger than my down bag, and it certainly weighs more. Probably the cheapest and best bit of kit I think here is the Alp Kit Hunka Bivy. Like for 50–60 quid, that's just an absolute bargain. So probably the second most important thing to bring while camping is the cook system, and this is just a wee cook set that I got in Go Outdoors. Again, I think it was maybe about 25–30 quid. So it's actually got 2 pots. So I would use one for cooking a meal, and then I would use the other one so I can just put that on to brew some water up for tea straight away, so I don't have to do any cleaning or anything in between. There's also a frying pan with this, but I literally don't use that. Too much hassle, cooking, oil, all that stuff. Just plain and simple for me. Although when I do see some other people on YouTube frying stuff up, I can literally smell it. And yeah, it looks good. So I get a wee metal mug in Decathlon, which is about £4 or £5. I think it's maybe aluminium, and that just sits really well inside this pot here, so that's cool. I also then have a fire steel, so that again, it's just I think better than a lighter. It's more dependable, more reliable, because all you're doing is sparking the gas. Now I live in Northern Ireland, and common gas is really hard to get at the minute. I was in Cotswold Outdoor the other day, and they said that they can't get it at all. And I think it just because it's classed as like a dangerous sort of material, you just sort of can't get them into Northern Ireland. I actually got this in the Range, which is I suppose like a gardening sort of homeware shop, which was cool because I did run out my last trip. Now this is a smaller canister. This is I think 240 grams. 230. You can get the bigger one, which I like. It's a wee bit heavier, but it just gives you that security that you have enough to do you. But this is cool as well. And then here's my stove. Like you wouldn't even know that. Like so that's MSR Pocket Rocket, and that is as light as anything and very reliable. The only thing I suppose as people say is it is quite a noisy wee stove, but yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. So that's a cooking kit, and it all sort of fits together quite nicely, and isn't too heavy for carrying. I forgot to say I also carry a spork, so that's got your knife, your fork and your spoon all in one. And again, that fits nicely inside the pot. I don't bring a windshield. I know lots of other people do. I find that I can usually manage just by using my pack or just where I put it. So it's just an extra thing to carry that I don't carry. Though again, this is just the stuff I bring, and everyone does it differently. And I think you sort of have to find your own path and your own way for what works for you. And it's taken me years to, I suppose, to refine what I bring with me and get it to where it is now. And I suppose I'm still refining all the time and still maybe discovering stuff. And partly that's to do with watching what other people do on YouTube as well. I'm fairly simple in terms of food as well, so and pretty habitual. I don't know if most people are. You just do the same stuff all the time. So I would bring noodles and tuna for a meal in the evening, and that's really cheap. It's not too bulky, and it's easy to prepare, so that's the reasons why I would have it. Then I would have for breakfast, I usually have like Weetabix, and I would have that in like a wee sandwich bag, and I would usually bring like a wee carton of milk as well. I do like my milk. I'm not one of these people that would boil water for cereal. That just doesn't work for me at all, and that's usually okay unless it's the height of summer. I have went to open a thing of milk. I think it was last year in the 12 Bains, and it just sort of exploded on me because it had all swollen up with the heat, and it was absolutely rotten. So maybe not in really hot weather. And then just snacks like biscuits, protein bars as well, just to keep me going, and definitely tea bags. I like my tea, so that those are sort of my staples for when I'm out wild camping. That's pretty much it. I think it is fairly simple, the system I use, and I only bring really what I need. Apart from, I suppose the other thing is in terms of camera gear, so I have a GoPro Hero 9 which I'm using, and I also use a Panasonic Lumix camera just for making these videos. So they're a wee bit more expensive, but you know, I don't really spend money on much, so those are a couple of things that I thought was worthwhile, because I do make videos fairly regularly. So I do bring a power bank as well, and I have a few different one of those, and that's to charge up batteries and spare batteries for the phone as well, and that just keeps everything going. And one of those usually is fine for an overnighter, though in really cold weather those do drain pretty quickly as well, but in any sort of decent weather they're fine. So that's my wild camping stuff, and hopefully you're enjoying the view here on Achill Island, over across to the cliffs of Croghan, and this is sort of where I'm walking for a couple of days, and I love wild camping. It just you know, it sort of recharges me a bit, like that sort of power bank that I bring, and it's good to do it regularly. So hopefully this has been helpful for you, and you take something from it, and if you don't, that's okay as well, because it's about you, again, you know, deciding what you need and what works for you.